Millions of people across East Africa are in immediate crisis due to the drought. This has led to crops and livestock to die. This has now caused a harsh increase in food crisis, leaving families who cannot afford to buy food starving. Please donate and save lives. www.justgiving.com/East Africa Emergency 2017. Call 0207 422 7551.
সিলেটের বিখ্যাত ব্র্যান্ড ফিজা নিয়ে এলো মজাদার ঝাল চানাচুর, নিমকি, রেজিং ডিলাইট, ড্রাই কেক সহ নানা স্বাদের রকমারি আইটেম। ফিজার সামগ্রী পেতে আজ যোগাযোগ করুন মিঠু অন 07538 92235। ফিজা, বিশুদ্ধতার প্রতীক।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম, অনেক শুভেচ্ছা জানিয়ে আপনাদেরকে আজকে শুরু করি মহিলা অঙ্গন অনুষ্ঠান। অনেক দিন পরে মহিলা অঙ্গন অনুষ্ঠান নিয়ে এসেছি আমি, বোধহয় আজকে 2-3 মাস পরেই বোধহয় আবার আসলাম। এতদিন তো কোভিড-19 নিয়ে আপনাদের সামনে আসতাম। আশা করি আপনারা সবাই ভালো আছেন। এই কোভিড-19-এর প্যান্ডেমিক যুগে আপনারা কেমন আছেন অবশ্যই টেলিফোন করে আমাকে আপনারা জানাবেন। এই যে কত সপ্তাহ হলো, এখন বোধহয় 14-15 সপ্তাহের মতো চলছে আমাদের লকডাউন। কেউ কেউ হয়তো লকডাউন এখন একটু ইজ করে দিয়েছেন, কেউ কেউ হয়তো এখনও আছেন যে আপনার কি বলে শিল্ডিং করছেন। আমিও একটু শিল্ডিং করছি এখনও, আস্তে আস্তে এটাও শিল্ডিংটা কমে আসবে। বাকি পৃথিবীর অন্যান্য সবার মতো আমারও অবস্থা। তো আজকে আমরা মহিলা অঙ্গন আবার ফিরে নিয়ে আসলাম। মহিলা অঙ্গনে আমরা সবসময় কথা বলি পারিবারিক সমস্যা নিয়ে, পারিবারিক যে কারেন্ট অ্যাফেয়ার্স যেগুলো এফেক্ট করে আমাদের দৈনিক জীবন, সেগুলো নিয়ে আমরা কথা বলি। আজকে আমাদের অনুষ্ঠান তার চেয়ে ভিন্ন না, এরকমই আমাদের অনুষ্ঠান আজকে সাজিয়েছি। তবে আজকে আমরা ফোকাস রাখবো কীভাবে হাউ টু কিপ ইউর ফ্যামিলি সেফ, কীভাবে আমাদের পরিবারকে আমরা সেফ রাখতে পারি এই প্যান্ডেমিকের যুগে। এই প্যান্ডেমিক কতদিন চলবে আমরা তা তো জানি না, কখন যে শেষ হবে তাও জানি না। শুরু হয়েছিল গত ডিসেম্বর থেকে, মেইনলি শুরু হয়েছে সবার জানাজানি হয়তো মার্চ থেকে আমরা সবাই সতর্ক, কিন্তু আসলে কবে যে শেষ হবে জানি না। তবে এই যে আমাদের পরিবার, আমাদের বাচ্চারা বাসায় আছে, আমরা বাসার থেকে কাজ করছি, কেমন চলছে, এবং এই মধ্যে যে স্ট্রেস ফ্যাক্টর যেগুলো, এই স্ট্রেস ফ্যাক্টরগুলো কিন্তু অনেক হাই। তো আমরা কিভাবে এটা ম্যানেজ করি এবং তার মধ্যে আমাদের পরিবারকে কিভাবে আমরা সেফ রাখতে পারি, সেই প্রসঙ্গ নিয়ে আজকে মহিলা অঙ্গন অনুষ্ঠান আপনাদের জন্য নিয়ে এসেছি। আপনারা অবশ্যই টেলিফোন করবেন, টেলিফোন করে এই অনুষ্ঠানে অংশগ্রহণ করবেন এবং আপনাদের যে এক্সপিরিয়েন্স, যেটা কিভাবে আপনাদের দিন কাটছে, কিভাবে আপনারা আপনাদের পরিবার সেফ রাখছেন, সেইটা আমাদের সাথে আপনারা অবশ্যই শেয়ার করবেন। একটু পরে স্ক্রিনের নিচে একটা নাম্বার আসবে, সেই নাম্বারে অবশ্যই টেলিফোন করবেন। তো আমি আর আমার নিজের সম্বন্ধে না বলে, এই প্রোগ্রামের সম্বন্ধে না বলে, আমি এখন আপনাদেরকে ইন্ট্রোডিউস করে দিই আমার আজকে 2 গেস্টের সাথে। আজকে আমার সাথে 2জন খুবই অভিজ্ঞ গেস্ট, খুবই মানে কি বলবো, এক্সপার্ট ইন দেয়ার ওন ফিল্ডস। প্রথমে যার সাথে পরিচয় করিয়ে দিব দর্শক শ্রোতা, উনি হচ্ছেন শামা Shama Nizabat. Shama Nizabat is a barrister by profession, by qualification. ওনার যে পরিচয় যেটা, it's such a long কি বলবো introduction. ওনার অনেক গুণ আছে, অনেক কিছু উনি করেছেন। উনি একজন এক্সপার্ট ইন হার ফিল্ড ইন টার্মস অফ ফ্যামিলি ল, এবং উনি ইসলামিক লর উপরে ওনার অনেক অভিজ্ঞ আছে। ইন্টারন্যাশনাল প্রোটেকশন অফ হিউম্যান রাইটস ইন দ্য ডেভেলপিং ওয়ার্ল্ড, ল সোসাইটি সাউথ এশিয়া, এইগুলো সব অনেক ওনার অনেক পরিচয় আছে, অনেক গুণ আছে, উনি অনেক কিছু করেছেন। কিন্তু ইতিমধ্যে গত 4 বছর ধরে উনি যেটা করে যাচ্ছেন সেটা হচ্ছে একজন ওয়েলবিং কোচ হিসাবে উনি কাজ করে যাচ্ছেন। উনি সম্পূর্ণ ভলেন্টিয়ার হিসাবে ভলেন্টারি কাজ করে যাচ্ছেন মানুষের পারিবারিক ওয়েলবিংয়ের জন্য, হাউ টু প্রোটেক্ট ফ্যামিলিজ, হাউ টু এম্পাওয়ার ফ্যামিলিজ। ওনার মেইন উদ্দেশ্য হচ্ছে ফ্যামিলিদেরকে এম্পাওয়ার করা। সো শামার সাথে আপনাদেরকে আমি প্রথমে পরিচয় করে দিই। শামা, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। Walaikum salam. How are you, Shama?
Alhamdulillah.
Shama, I know you're connecting with me through Zoom and you can't see me, but I can see you, and I can assure you my audience can see
Yes.
you and hear you. So Shama, I was just telling my audience in Bengali that you have a huge
what do you
profile.
want?
You have a huge profile, and your profile is, very, very interesting profile. You're an expert in many fields. I told them some things. I hope you understood some of the stuff I told them about. And I've stopped at the coaching part and the mediation and all the community consultancies you do. But your main goal at the moment is to empower families so that families can actually look after themselves and protect themselves. So do you want to tell me a little bit about what it is that you feel, why did you feel that you needed to empower families? And also what made you decide to give up such an excellent career in law?
Yeah, of course. So I'd been at the bar for about 22 years. I represented many, many local authorities, so representing parents, children, all sorts of members of the family before they and whereas when I was younger, so I graduated, went straight into the bar, my quest was to seek justice for others, believing that that was the highest virtue that I could serve for my Rabb. And then it came to a point in my career where I began to think that I was being called in at quite a late stage of the hearing, because it's either for final hearings or at the interim stage, but the process of families being separated had already begun. So it got to a point in my career where I began to reevaluate what felt most purposeful, the best way for me to serve Allah. And I decided that what I was doing was not quite as meaningful as it had been originally. And so what I did was I wanted to be more involved in the earlier stages that prevented children being removed from families, rather than coming during the course of a hearing to equip parents, to equip families with the knowledge, the insight, the understanding that could help them to take the measures to empower themselves and to prevent the children being separated from their care. So I put together a program called Reparenting the Parents. I tried to pilot that, I tried to launch that, couldn't really get the funding from local authorities. So what I did instead was I took the services that I was advocating in that program, Reparenting the Parents, and weaved it together to arrive at a stress management program, again for parents, for families. It includes family mediation, relationship mediation, so not just between couples, but between children, parents, in-laws, grandparents, any kind of relationship dynamic, family dynamic. Stress management, anger management, because what I observed over the previous decades of my life had been the triggers for stress within a family context was obviously such that it led to very, very dysfunctional coping mechanisms. So I wanted to work on some of those, and that's where this current program, this stress management program, has arisen. The model that I have for Muslim families is based on the Quran, the Sunnah, Asma al-Husna, So I've woven in passages from the Quran. There is hadith that forms a part of the various programs, the various processes involved. I've adapted the mindfulness approach to include Islamic mindfulness, which I consider to have been taken from what our Prophet ﷺ would perform in Ghar Hira when he was in a state of tafakkur and meditation. So it's weaving together very ancient, traditional, prophetic traditions with modern concepts of, and scientific approaches, actually, of stress management that have all come together to deal with stress. And alhamdulillah, I've had success with hosting retreats, with individual sessions, with group sessions for staff members of organizations, for charities, for families in crises. So alhamdulillah, that's what I feel is most meaningful at the moment for me.
But listening to your story and your journey, it's really interesting that people spend years of studying to become a barrister, and you gave it all up because you wanted to empower parents, and you saw the inequality and you saw how parents struggled, and you talk in the context of family law. That is what you're talking about, isn't it? So in the
Specialist.
Sorry?
I was a family law specialist.
That's right.
Yeah.
You were a family law specialist. That's right. Your career was interesting, and I understand that you were very successful in what you did. Alhamdulillah. So that's very good, mashallah. But now what the turning that you've taken is to help families, empower families, and you've seen the struggle and the stresses that families have been under. And most of the time when families are in court through family law, it is because social services involvement. So bringing that into the current situation, into the current pandemic, can you tell me what are, from your experience and your work with the community, would you say that this COVID-19, what type of stresses has this brought families under?
Well, sadly, it's brought up a whole plethora of issues that may have been dormant, that may have been lying underneath the surface, but people are having now to contend with a range of loss, all sorts of losses in their lives. So whether it's a bereavement, whether it's financial loss, whether they're on some furlough scheme, whether it's a loss of income, whether it's loss of a lifestyle, loss of relationships. So you've got families that have sadly been unable to sustain the pressure of being locked down, and whatever issues may have been simmering beneath the surface have now arisen. So sadly, I've seen a range of problems with family separation, partners separating, husband and wife separating, people filing for divorce within months of the lockdown. Sadly, I've also had cases of intergenerational disputes, so between parents and young adults with whom they're sharing a household, parents being taken to a point where they feel they've had to call the police and use outside intervention that they would never have contemplated before. So family dynamics really being impacted. For children and young persons, it's a loss of a lifestyle with support from their peers, possibly school, particularly for some younger children in families where school was a safe haven.
Okay.
There's also tremendous issues around mental health, and that's one that I really want to focus on, because whilst I did what I did at the bar, alhamdulillah, I loved it. It was stimulating. It was very rewarding financially and intellectually in many ways. But this is working with people in a completely different way, because what I feel I'm most intrigued by in the current work that I'm doing is actually empowering people with accessing their inner resources, enabling them to look within themselves to find the answers to their own problems.
That's really interesting. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to bring in my next guest. প্রিয় দর্শক শ্রোতা, এতক্ষণ আপনারা কথা শুনলেন, শামার কথা শুনলেন। শামা কথা বললো ওর নিজের সম্বন্ধে, ও কীভাবে সে তার ব্যারিস্টারি চাকরি ছেড়ে সে এই যে মানুষের সেবায় কীভাবে আসলো সেটা সে এতক্ষণ বললো। এখন আপনাদেরকে যার সাথে পরিচয় করিয়ে দিচ্ছি, উনি হচ্ছেন নাদিরা হুদা। আসসালামু আলাইকুম নাদিরা আপা। Sorry, I can't hear you, Nadira Appa.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes,
now?
I can hear you now. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine.
Thank you for joining us, Nadira Appa. So let me quickly introduce you to my guest. So Darshak Shrota, Nadira Appa uni hocchen Nadira Huda. Nadira Huda, many years, over 30 years of social work experience. She was a senior manager in social services. She gave it up for family commitment, and then she was a specialist social worker, specialist child protection advisor for a local authority for many years, and she is now working as an independent consultant. She's working around the world on an international level, and her assessments of families around the world advise court and care proceedings, and she basically informs the decision making of a judge. So it's a very important role she has, and obviously by qualification, as I said, that she is a specialist social worker. Nadira Appa has been in management for many years, so she has seen how social services deals with cases once it comes into contact with the local authority, what the process is. And one of the roles that Nadira Appa had played in social services was also chairing child protection case conferences. আপনারা যারা সোশ্যাল সার্ভিসের সাথে যাদের কোনো না কোনোভাবে সম্পর্ক হয়েছে, যোগাযোগ হয়েছে, আপনাদের যদি কোনো চাইল্ড প্রোটেকশন কেসের সাথে কোনো ধরনের কোনো কন্ট্যাক্ট হয়ে থাকে, আপনারা অবশ্যই জানবেন চাইল্ড প্রোটেকশন কেস কনফারেন্সগুলো কীভাবে হয়। তো নাদিরা আপা এইসব কনফারেন্সগুলো চেয়ার করেছেন অনেক বছর। সো সেখান থেকে আমি নাদিরা আপাকে আজকে অনুষ্ঠানে অনেক স্বাগত জানাই। নাদিরা আপা, সো in terms of your work and your involvement with the community and with child protection and being in management and in social work for so many years, you've seen how families deal with stress and the stresses they go through. I don't know if you were listening to what Shama was saying about her experience and why she gave up the bar to help families and to enable families. What would you say are the current stress factors under COVID-19 for our families?
For our families, I think the stress factors are the factors that they were already there. It's just been exaggerated, and by COVID-19, the fact that people are in confined spaces, the fact that they have to spend 24 hours together, the fact that children are not going to school. There's, and sometimes, if you're a key worker, you're going out to work, you're having to come home if you work for the NHS. I've read articles about, doctors who are coming home. They can't even come home and hug their children. They have to wash, they have to change their clothes, then they have to have a bath, then they can hug their children. So it must be really difficult. Everything, the stresses that were there prior to COVID-19 have just been exaggerated by the lockdown.
So Nadira Appa, when you're working with the families, you see families and you do a lot of assessments on families, and you notice that families deal with stress in different ways. But can I just take you back a few years when you were working in a very specialist role in local authorities where people used to come into contact with child protection procedures? How does the local authority deal with those referrals, and what is it that our families need to understand? Because you've seen it from both ends, yeah? You were a decision maker from the local authority point of view, whether to put a child on a child protection plan or not to put on the plan, based on the evidence that you had in front of you. Just enlighten the families in terms of how that works.
Okay, so how it works, I mean, I can't go into all the details because it is quite lengthy, but basically, if there is a concern about a child, supposing a child goes into school, there's a mark on the child's face, and the teacher asks, what happened to your face? And the child says, my mum hit me. By law, the teacher has to report that to a person, a safeguarding person within the school. So every school has a safeguarding person responsible for child protection and safeguarding. That person then has to contact the local authority, which is social services. So social services do all their procedures, and then they will decide on a joint investigation. Joint because it's done with the police,
Yeah.
So this is a legally sanctioned investigation under Section 25 of the Children's Act, It's a responsibility on the police and the social worker to go and speak to the parents and investigate what's happening, what happened, what led to that child being hit. Then what happens is, based on the information, decisions are taken about whether in emergency cases to take the matter to court. Usually with a slap around the face, if it's the first time, it won't go to court. Social workers will start working with the family. Sometimes the decision is, if it's been several times that this child has said the same thing, the decision may be to take it to a child protection case conference, which is the kind of meetings that I used to chair.
But Nadirapa,
Now,
in our families, we've all been brought up with some level of discipline. And if a parent, so you as a child protection conference chairperson, you have to make a decision where the parent has overstepped the mark. But if a parent disciplines their child and gives a small, hit here and a small slap there, what's wrong with that? Parents will say, well, it's my right, it's my child.
Yes, it is your child. You have a right to discipline your child. You have no right to hit your child. It's against the law in this country.
But a lot of our Bangladeshi parents will argue that. And then what happens?
Well, you can argue that, but at the end of the day, your child will be removed from your care if you continue to argue that, because there might be a cultural issue, but it's against the law. Sorry, Shama, you wanted to...
Yeah, I was just gonna come in here, if I may, Hina. Sorry.
Yes, of course. No, please do.
All I was going to say was that in terms of physical chastisement, what you've got to do is obviously look at the context and the circumstances that led to that. But the legal test, the legal requirement before a child can be removed is that the child has either suffered or is at risk of suffering significant harm. So as Nadra quite rightly said, if a child has a single complaint or mentions a smack in school, even the teacher would probably think, well, in the context of the rest of the story, that's probably, it doesn't amount to being significant. But if you've got a whole history and suddenly there's a health visitor and there's police and there's a neighbour, and you start piecing lots of bits of evidence together that amounts to evidence that demonstrates that there's been either a long-standing history of harm, and that amounts to significant harm, or that there are other bruises, or that there are other injuries. So the legal test for removal has to be that the courts are satisfied that there's significant harm. But I think what's important for your viewers to understand is that there are various stages of the proceedings. So at the very, very early stage, if the police feel that there are reasonable grounds to suspect that the child has either suffered or is at risk of suffering, the police have power under the emergency powers, Section 46 of the Children Act. They've got the power to remove a child for up to, I think it's 72 hours, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
72 hours.
Social workers then have the power in an emergency to exercise emergency procedures, instigate emergency procedures, and go to court and remove the child for up to 8 days. Then there is another hearing, which is called the interim care hearing, until a full and final investigation is concluded. The courts can actually decide that until that time, until we get to the putting all the evidence together and gathering all the information and assessments that are necessary, the child can be removed if there is evidence of immediate risk of harm to that child. So there are legal tests that have to be satisfied, and it's critical that your parents, the viewers, all understand this. The police, social services cannot just walk into your home and remove your children.
So I'm going to quickly, Shama, go to Nadirapa, just very quickly. So Nadirapa, what Shama is talking about, she's talking about evidence, right? So without the evidence, the court, you can't take a case to court. You have to evidence that the child is either suffering or is likely to suffer significant harm. But before that is established, social services become involved and they have to gather the evidence. So in the process of gathering the evidence, at what point is it that you, from your experience, is it that our parents don't understand, or where is it that our parents don't help themselves in order to prevent this matter from going into court? So one of the aspects of harm that you'll probably talk about is emotional abuse. Because a lot of the other abuse, like neglect and emotional abuse, are probably two of the most difficult ones to evidence, I guess. But can you remove children on the basis of neglect and emotional abuse?
Yes, of course you can. And usually, emotional abuse, you're right, it's a difficult one to evidence, but usually emotional abuse comes with other aspects of the abuse. So if there's physical abuse, naturally there will also be emotional abuse, because you're not just hurting a child, you're hurting. So what we mean by emotional abuse is you're demeaning a child, you're making the child feel worthless, you're lowering that child's self-esteem. So all these things come together. If there's domestic violence in the home, there's also, we will say there's emotional abuse, because you're subjecting that child to fear.
So what is the impact?
But the child watching the mother get is fearful. So
Nadirapa, in terms of domestic abuse, so you've touched on this. So what is the impact of domestic abuse on small children when the children are very small? They're probably a couple of months old, few months old. Well, how will they understand domestic abuse in the home?
Well, I think what you're probably getting at is what a lot of parents say, which is they're very small, they don't understand anything, or we had an argument and the child was in the bedroom. Even with older children, the children didn't hear anything. But children hear things, children pick up things as well. And just before I go to talk about that, I just want you just to ask a very important question, which is what is it that parents get wrong right from the beginning? And I think one of the things is parents, what you need to do, if a social worker is involved in your life, if the police are involved in your life to do with child protection issues, you need to be honest. I know sometimes that's really difficult. If you've hit a child, it's hard to admit that you've done it, but you need to be honest. Don't embellish, don't tell lies. If you do, it will come out sooner than later, yeah? The people who come and do these investigations, the police, social workers, they're trained. They're trained people. And on top of that, they're trained to work out what's actually going on. On top of that, some families may be disadvantaged because they don't speak the language. You may have a different culture, different ideas about how to raise your children, which, a social worker coming along may not understand. So you've got to overcome that as well. As Shama said, if there is evidence, sometimes if a professional is in doubt about what you're saying, as social workers, what we're taught is always believe the child, because it's unlikely that a child will be lying, especially a young child. Yeah, so if there is any doubt, the police, as Shama has said, can take police protection to protect a child and remove the child from the care of the parents. Further on down the line, if you sign an agreement with the local authority, with the social workers, for example, saying you're not going to have any contact with the child, keep to that agreement. Don't break that agreement, because what you're then judged as by everyone, the professionals around you, is that you can't be trusted. You can't be trusted. People can't work with you. And all these evidence will be stacked up. We were talking about evidence. This is all evidence that will be stacked up against you and presented in court. The other thing is, if you know that something is going down the route of a care proceeding, seek legal advice. Yeah, legal advice when it comes to child care proceedings is free. Do not go to a solicitor who says, pay me, because that's wrong. It's free. It's free. It's one of the few things that's still free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yes.
So don't go to a solicitor that tells you that you have to pay. Take the allegations seriously. Take the investigation seriously. Don't try and be clever, because you will be found out and it will be held against you. Ultimately, it's a really, really high price. Families have lost their children because they've lied. Yeah, and once you tell a lie, you have to keep lying to cover that initial lie. So be honest right from the beginning. And it's easier to work with that than with lies, because you don't know. Even for myself, it's really annoying when people lie, because you can't work out what's the truth, what's not the truth, what's real, what's not real. Towards the end, you just don't know. So you take the option, which is what's in the child's best interest.
So
Child's best interest is to be...
Nadirappa, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show a video now for my audience to understand what we're talking about. We're talking about emotional abuse. We're talking about how parental behavior impacts on children and the children's psychological development. So, sorry, are you saying something, Nadirappa?
So just before you show that video, can I just say that
yes,
the reason why we're going to be showing this video is because within our cultures, whether we're from Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, wherever, we have this view that young children don't understand, or they, from the age of 0 to 5, they don't understand anything. And then suddenly at the age of 5, all this understanding comes and we can start implementing boundaries and sanctions. But this video shows very clearly how children are affected by emotional abuse. So
thank you. So can we please show the video first, and then we can come back to discussion about the video.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby, who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this, and then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal stuff that goes on, that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly situation.
Thank you very much for watching the video. I will just now introduce you to my third guest. We have a third guest on the show. The third person is Tanveer Mahtab. Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Tanveer. Are you with us?
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you, Tanveer?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good, thank you.
So, Tanveer, a little bit of about yourself is that you are a chartered accountant. You head an accountancy and tax department for a very high-profile financial company. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Sorry?
No, yes, that's right.
And you, and there's another part of your identity. You're a young mother. You're a new mother.
I am. I'm a mother of a 10-month-old girl, Camila.
Okay, so did you just see our video?
I did, yes. Thank you for sharing that video. I found it very interesting, and especially as a new parent, it was very good to watch, and I personally learned a lot from it.
Okay, so were you familiar with any of those, what was said on the video? Were you familiar with any of those things? How children pick up on parental smiles, facial expressions? Were you familiar with those things?
Yes, I was, but not actually to that full extent. But like I said, it does explain now. In reality, when I'm reacting with my own baby, that makes sense. If I stress, then she's not calming down, crying, and that explains why they can feel it.
So your stress projects onto her, and then she's crying. She's not settling. Yeah. So now that explains. So with the pandemic and with the lockdown, how have you been coping with it?
So being a first-time mother in itself is quite a challenging time. This is a time where, anyone would benefit from having their close family around them. I come from a big family. I have 4 older sisters, 9 nieces and nephews. They're all in Newcastle and Manchester. So with the pandemic, obviously, I'm not able to go visit them. Whereas it would have been a perfect opportunity for my daughter Camila to, socialise with them, interact, with the nieces and nephews to help her development. It's been since January. My parents have seen Camila. Since then, she's crawling now. She's climbing. She's nearly starting to walk. So it's all those milestones. But alhamdulillah, I have a very supportive husband who's a very hands-on Abu, so I can't complain there. So we're just taking use of the video calling technology for the grandparents and the halas and mama, so they're not missing out on their side as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of support, then, where do you get your support from?
Companies are there on the other side of the phone, as well as my husband being by me, continuously. My parents and my sisters, they're all there on the phone at the side. We WhatsApp each other every day, all the time. We have our virtual weekly quiz nights just to keep, for your mental health and well-being. It's something to look forward to each week. And also, with regards to development for the little baby, I rely on Google, my friend Google and Baby Centre and YouTube, buying sensory activities, toys to help her development, not being able to go to baby classes. Technology is a wonderful thing.
Well, that's very good. So today we're talking about the stresses of our families under the pandemic and the lockdown situation that we're in, and how stress leads to family dysfunction. And we're talking about the extreme end where child protection agencies get involved. And as you know, our 2 other guests, they're experts in the child protection field, in family law and in child protection. And so one from the legal point of view and the other person is from the local authority perspective. Is there anything that they have said that so far you feel that you can resonate with?
It's just, I agree with everything they say, but it's with regards to just disciplining children. As a new parent, obviously, she's only 10 months. I haven't had to discipline her, alhamdulillah, yet. But discipline is important to any person's life, especially at a young age. But I think it has to be done within reason. I don't believe in physical discipline. I see that this is something that will scar a child's life, which has no real benefits. I personally have my own child now. I hope that when she is at the age where she can understand, she'll respect us as parents enough to listen and act accordingly without me having to, take upon any action. Use my parents as guidance. I follow their footsteps. I've experienced them upbringing me and my 4 sisters without the use of physical discipline, and alhamdulillah, we're successful.
That's very good to hear. So, Nadira, I would like to bring you in just on the back of the video and on the back of what Tanvir is just talking about. A lot of the time when we're talking about child abuse, people think it's the physical chastisement that we're referring to and the physical scars. But a lot of it also is about, we were talking just before the video was about the emotional abuse. So what are the common issues that you come across in terms of working with our Bangladeshi or subcontinental families? How do they understand, or how do you explain the emotional abuse on them? Because not always everybody agrees with hitting a child. A lot of people will see that as being very cruel, but not necessarily understanding the emotional abuse. So maybe you can tell us what is emotional abuse first.
Okay, so let me say one thing, which is that as a social worker for over 30 years, what I've seen is, certainly in the Bangladeshi community, we're moving away from physical chastisement. That used to be the biggest reason why children came to the attention of social workers. But as people have become more aware, and people have, people like, your programs have talked about how it's against the law to physically chastise your child, that as your guest has said, it doesn't achieve anything. All it teaches the child to do is be violent. So it doesn't teach them anything, really. The biggest issue that's coming up now, I think, is emotional abuse. There is a lack of understanding because it's not tangible. You can't see it. And as I said, it's always usually associated with other forms of abuse as well. So one of the biggest factors behind emotional abuse is domestic violence. A child watching, witnessing a mother, and usually it is mothers who are beaten and abused. The child becomes frightened. So you wanted to know what emotional harm
abuse,
was.
yeah.
I'll just read a list of things that constitutes emotional abuse. Verbal abuse, swearing at a child, telling the child that he's worthless, his life is worthless, constant criticism, you're no good, you're this, you're that. One issue that's really a bugbear for me is when we compare, and it's very relevant to what's happening with all Black Lives Matter, is when we compare children's colour. So a fair child is beautiful, a dark child is ugly, or we find you in the street. And I've had cases where, children have actually believed that they were found in the street and that they've been adopted by their parents. They've actually believed that. And
because they're darker than the other members of the family.
Than the other members, so they're made to feel different. They've actually believed that and have gone to school and said, well, actually, I'm adopted. And the parents have laughed it off. But actually, that feeling of, just because I'm darker, I'm not worth anything, is there. And that's completely wrong. Well, why is being fair compared to being beautiful? It's wrong. So intimidation, telling the child, if you don't do this, I'll do this to you, I'll hit you, I'll do something to your mom. Manipulation, if you don't do this for me, I will do this, or I will tell people that you've been naughty, or I've seen you with a boy outside school. If you don't come with me, if you don't have sex with me. So when I say emotional abuse is linked to other abuse, it's also linked to sexual abuse, it's linked to physical abuse, it's linked to neglect as well. A parent is never pleased with what a child has done. I think most of us, we have this joke, we say when a child comes and says, I got 80% at school, we don't say, well done, we say, well, why didn't you get 100%? That's a kind of a running joke. But if you keep saying that to a child, they're going to say, what's the point of me making an effort? My parents are never pleased with me. Threatening a child, obviously, because this child becomes scared, fearful. Pushing a child beyond their limitations. Every child has got learning disability. If a child has difficulties learning, may not have a disability, they're never going to be a doctor. So stop putting that pressure on that child. Another example of emotional abuse is ignoring your child. They're there, but you don't talk to them, you don't engage with them in any way, a bit like the video. So when we say emotional abuse is linked to domestic violence, sometimes when a woman is being hit and hit and hit, she just cannot engage with anyone, including her children. So she becomes emotionally unavailable to them. And we see the damage. Even this 1-year-old child, we can see how distressed she got and how quickly. And if that happens to you day in, day out as a child, obviously you're going to grow up feeling anxious. You're not going to have attachment. And then attachment is the biggest thing as humans. We all want to have an attachment to someone. We want to be loved by someone. We want to feel that we are safe with someone. If you don't have that as a child, you're never going to have that as an adult as well. And that will impact on the way you bring up your child. So it's like a vicious circle.
So can I just bring Shama in here? Shama? We're hearing about the evidence, how evidence is gathered. So what Nadirappa is talking about is the evidence of how significant harm is going to be evidenced and how it's going to impact on the lives of children. So if this child, for example, if the mother is the absent mother and there's something not right with the mother, be it the domestic situation, or it could be mental health of the mother, or there's probably not support. So when the case goes to court, the local authority obviously makes the application for, in terms of care proceedings. Can you explain what is care proceedings? What can actually be the outcome of a care proceedings for my audience? Because I'm also mindful that it's already 9:15 and my program is not going to be that long before it's ending. So if you just give the audience a feel of from the start to end, what happens? What is care proceedings? What do local authorities aim to achieve through care proceedings?
Okay, so the local authority will have become involved with a family because of a concern. So whether it's emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, whatever. And the intervention is usually necessary because a third party, whether it's a neighbour, whether it's a friend, whether it's a school, teacher, health visitor, somebody outside the family usually has made a referral to social services. So they start the investigation, they start looking at what can be done and exploring whether there is any basis for that investigation. So to be fair to the local authority, they don't come in assuming that the allegation is made out. They have to prove that, especially before a court of law. Now, the process that they will undergo is that usually there's a letter before proceedings. So the family should be sent a letter that lets them know that the local authority are considering applying to court for the child to possibly be taken into care. And it's at that point that the family, like Mother has also already mentioned, should be going to see a solicitor, not an immigration solicitor, not a criminal solicitor, not an employment solicitor, but a family solicitor who is a specialist in care proceedings, because I can't emphasize enough, these are your children who are potentially being removed from your care, possibly permanently. If an adoption order is made, at the conclusion of the whole investigation and the court process, your children could be legally adopted by somebody else and you lose all rights over them. So when at any stage that I would be involved in the court process, I couldn't emphasize enough to the parents that I was representing how important it was for them to take on board whatever the local authority have to say, understand the concerns, demonstrate insight, prove that you are engaging with whatever they're suggesting, engage with the assessments, engage with the parenting assessment, psychological assessment, turn up for appointments, whether it's with a guardian, a social worker, a therapist, a psychotherapist, a psychologist. It may be with the children's guardian. So it may be a court official who's been appointed on behalf of the child to investigate the concerns, who is supposed to be a neutral party simply representing the interests of the child. So do whatever is necessary to prevent your children being taken into care. Do not sit there and assume that Allah will take care of all of it. Of course, ultimately, He is in charge, He's in control, He's the Malik al-Mulk, we all understand that. But He says, it's a prophetic hadith, that we must tie our camel, take reasonable steps to do whatever is necessary to prevent you losing your children potentially.
So I'm going to just stop you there, and I just want to bring in Tanvir. Tanvir, you are obviously a very young mum, new mum. All this must be sounding really, absolutely horrendous, thinking, oh my God. So how are you feeling when you're listening to all this about the child protection realms and what actually happens to children when they are not protected by families? So I just want to clarify one thing, that abuse does not always happen in the home, but it's also parents' inability to protect their child from harm, wherever harm is coming from. So you have a young baby, you must be absolutely overprotective of your baby at this stage. And I know we spoke earlier and you were telling me that you're planning to go back to work. So tell me, listening to Shama and Nadirapa, what sort of anxiety is coming to your mind?
This is actually scaring me a lot, especially when I'm due back in work in a couple of months' time. And obviously, I'm looking at childcare, so looking at nurseries. And, you do the best you can in trying to find the right nursery. I've said reports and so on. I'm still scared. You have that anxiety just because of also what my sisters have said, and also when we're watching media, looking at media, what you're reading, it's all about, your children do get abuse outside of home, and it's that how can you trust that someone else to look after your child? It's very worrying.
So as a young mother then, going back to work, what preparations are you taking or making to find the right childcare for your child when you go back to work?
So I've been doing research in regards to nursery, because I do believe compared to getting a babysitter or a nanny, I think because of my sisters, their kids went to nursery from young age, and it really helped their learning and development. So I am keen on that aspect. I've been looking at really good, well-established ones, doing research, looking at the Ofsted report, what's been marked as outstanding. I've went personally, we both have, to do private viewing, so you can actually see how the children are interacting with the carers, like live, rather than just assuming, what you read online. Anyone can write anything online. So
it's interesting that you're saying you're reading Ofsted reports and doing your research. That's what you were saying earlier on. So when you go to visit a nursery, you see how they're presenting and you look all at what they're saying. Why is that not enough for you?
Because of what I've been seeing on the media, like they could, that's just me seeing a snapshot of their day-to-day life. Anything can happen. And I'm not just saying it can happen with nurses, it can happen with anywhere you leave your child, right? But we're hope for the best, pray that Allah, safeguards our child, from any hurt.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you're on the right track. I'm sure my child protection expert guests will say that you're doing all the right things that a protective parent should do to ensure that their child is safe when their child is being placed in daycare or childminder. We're just going to go to a quick break now, so please stay with us. আমরা কিছুক্ষণের মধ্যে ফিরে আসবো। দর্শক শ্রোতা, আপনারা আমাদের সঙ্গেই থাকবেন। আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
Coming up next, Azan.
ফ্রেশ শাকসবজি আর ফলমূলে মজাই আলাদা, সেই নিশ্চয়তায় হোয়াইট চ্যাপেল মার্কেটে আহমদ ফ্রুট অ্যান্ড ভেজ। সরাসরি ইম্পোর্টার, তাই দামেও সস্তা। নানা রকম ফ্রেশ পণ্যের বিশাল সমাহার। আহমদ ফ্রুট অ্যান্ড ভেজ, হোয়াইট চ্যাপেল ফিস্টের পাশেই।
কুতুবে দাওরান মুজাদ্দিদে জামান শাইখুল ইসলাম আল্লামা শাইখ লুৎফুর রহমান বর্ণবী রহমতুল্লাহির প্রতিষ্ঠিত বরুণা মাদ্রাসা। প্রায় 100 বছরের এই দ্বীনি শিক্ষা প্রতিষ্ঠান থেকে তৈরি হয়েছে হাজারো আলেম, হাফিজ, মুফাসসিরে কোরআন, শাইখুল হাদিস সহ বিভিন্ন বিষয়ে ইসলামিক স্কলার। এর সবকিছুই সম্ভব হয়েছে আপনাদের দান এবং সাদাকায়ের বিনিময়ে। এখনো আপনারা নবীর এই বাগানে সাদকায়ে জারিয়ার প্রজেক্টে শরীক হতে পারেন। একজন হাফিজ 750 পাউন্ড, একটি রুম 3000 পাউন্ড, লাইফ মেম্বার 1000 পাউন্ড। বিস্তারিত তথ্যের জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন শাইখ বদরুল আলম হামিদি, ফোন 07878561130 নম্বরে।
Although the coronavirus pandemic has affected most of the restaurants and takeaways in the UK, online orders have more than doubled during this challenging time. Using a third-party platform, you could be paying thousands in commission. Why not join Chef Online for free? Yes, free. We can help you faster. No admin fee, saving you £599 plus VAT. Join Chef Online during this lockdown period. Chef Online. Be smart. Save more.
হোম টাইলসের 12টা দোকান খোলা আর কোভিড থেকে নিরাপদ। আপনার কাছে স্টকৰ অভাৱ নাই। জেসা জেনুইন প্ৰাইচ থেকে হোমে দিম। হোম টাইলস দামে হকল থাকে হোম আর খামে হকল থাকি পালা। হোম টাইলসৰ ষ্টৰৰ আই জবকা। গুগলে গিয়া hometile.co লেখি আর টিফা মারলেও সব স্টোরের খবর পাই দিবা। hometile.co।
Biani Bazaar Cancer and General Hospital, the symbol of unity and care. Because of your kind donation and incredible support, our vision is becoming reality. Last 3 years, we served 23,000 general and 700 cancer patients. Awareness program helped 50,000 people. Thousands of patients supported by the Poor Fund. Please help the helpless. And remember, Biani Bazaar Cancer and General Hospital.
আমার বাজার 7 ফেয়ার ক্রস প্যারেড, লং ব্রিজ রোড, বার্কিং IG11 HUN। আমার বাজার ডেগেনহাম ও বার্কিং নিবাসীদের জন্য সুখবর। এখন আপনাদের হাতের কাছেই পাবেন বাংলাদেশি টাটকা শাকসবজি, ছোট বড় সব রকমের মাছ ও হালাল মাংস। আমরা আকিকার অর্ডার নিয়ে থাকি। আরও পাবেন ফ্রোজেন ভেজিটেবল, কনফেকশনারি আইটেম সহ নিত্য প্রয়োজনীয় পণ্য সামগ্রী। আমরা ফ্রি হোম ডেলিভারি দিয়ে থাকি। আমার বাজার 7 ফেয়ার ক্রস প্যারেড, লং ব্রিজ রোড, বার্কিং IG11 HUN।
Now, Azan.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد
হে আল্লাহ, এই পরিপূর্ণ আহ্বান এবং এই শাশ্বত নামাজের তুমিই প্রভু। হযরত মুহাম্মদ সাল্লাল্লাহু আলাইহি ওয়াসাল্লামকে দান করো বেহেশতের সর্বোচ্চ সম্মানিত স্থান এবং সুমহান মর্যাদা, আর তাঁকে অধিষ্ঠিত করো শ্রেষ্ঠতম প্রশংসিত স্থানে, যার প্রতিশ্রুতি তুমি তাঁকে দিয়েছ। নিশ্চয়ই তুমি প্রতিশ্রুতির ব্যতিক্রম করো না।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম প্রিয় দর্শক শ্রোতা, আমরা আবার ফিরে এসেছি মহিলা অঙ্গন অনুষ্ঠানে। আজকের এই অনুষ্ঠানে আমরা কথা বলছি হাউ টু কিপ ইউর ফ্যামিলি সেফ। তবে আমরা একটা এমফেসিস আমাদের যেটা হয়েছে আজকে চাইল্ড প্রোটেকশনের উপরে আমরা এমফেসিস করছি। আমাদের সাথে দুইজন অতি এক্সপার্ট দুইজন মানুষ রয়েছে যারা এই ফিল্ডে অনেক কাজ করেছেন, অনেক দীর্ঘ 30 বছরের চেয়েও বেশি কাজ ওনারা করেছেন এই ফিল্ডে। ওনাদের ইনসাইড নলেজ এবং কিভাবে আমাদের ফ্যামিলিগুলোকে প্রিভেন্ট করা যায়, যে কোর্টে যখন যায় কেসটা ওখানে আপনাদের কি করা উচিত, কি ধরনের পরামর্শ নেওয়া উচিত, কোন ধরনের ট্যাকটিক্স আপনাদের জানা উচিত, সেটা অবশ্যই শামা বলে যাচ্ছেন। আর নাদির আপা বলে যাচ্ছেন যে সোশ্যাল সার্ভিসের ইনভলভমেন্ট যখন হয় তখন আপনারা কিভাবে সোশ্যাল সার্ভিসের সাথে সহযোগিতা করা আপনাদের দরকার, বা কিভাবে আপনারা এই কেস আপনাদের কেসটা কোর্টে যাতে না যায় সেটা প্রিভেন্ট করতে পারেন কিভাবে। অবশ্যই এগুলো আপনাদের জানার দরকার, কারণ আমাদের ফ্যামিলিগুলো, আমাদের বাংলাদেশি ফ্যামিলিগুলো, অনেক ফ্যামিলি চাইল্ড প্রোটেকশন কেসগুলোতে জড়িত, তারপরে কোর্টে অনেক কেস আমাদের যাচ্ছে। সেখানে আমরা বাচ্চা শামা যেটা বললো যে শেষ পর্যন্ত যেটা হয়, একটা সোশ্যাল সার্ভিস যদি কেস নিয়ে যায় কোর্টে, শেষ পর্যন্ত এটি হতে পারে অ্যাডপশন অর্ডার আসতে পারে। আর যদি কোর্ট অ্যাডপশন অর্ডার দিয়ে দেয় আপনার বাচ্চার ব্যাপারে, তখন এই বাচ্চা আপনার কাছে থেকে চিরতরে চলে যাবে। কোনো দিন আপনার আর কোনো রাইটস থাকবে না, কোনো অধিকার থাকবে না এই বাচ্চার উপর। এই বাচ্চাটা অন্য একটা ফ্যামিলিতে চলে যাবে, তাদের নাম, তাদের সব কিছু, তাদের পরিচয়ে বাচ্চা বাকিটা জীবন কাটাবে। তো এটা একটা বিরাট গুরুত্বপূর্ণ ব্যাপার, অনেক সিরিয়াস। আপনারা অবশ্যই টেলিফোন করবেন, টেলিফোন করে যদি আপনাদের কোনো এক্সপার্ট, যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে যে আমার এক্সপার্টরা আনসার দিতে পারেন, অবশ্যই আপনারা প্রশ্ন করতে পারেন। বা আপনাদের যদি কোনো অভিজ্ঞতা থাকে, কোনো স্টোরি থাকে যেটা আমাদের সাথে আপনারা শেয়ার করতে পারেন, আমরা অবশ্যই চাইবো আপনাদের কাছে থেকে শুনতে। তো আমি আর বেশি দেরি না করে আমি নাদির আপার কাছে চলে যাচ্ছি। সো নাদির আপা, watching the video, listening to both of you, and then also listening to Tanveer, I feel that I need to ask you about what is it that what I just said in Bengali to my viewers, that I think my viewers need to learn and need to understand what is it that they can do to prevent a case from going to court, first of all, and what is it that they need to do to actually keep their children safe, keep their family safe. Can you give some advice and also relate to your own experience?
Okay, so the most important thing is educate yourself. So educate yourself about the laws of this country. You know, hitting a child or doing something to a child because it's part of your culture is not acceptable. It's not, it really is not acceptable as a reason. No one is going to, you go to court, it will be, people will say, no, the law of the country is you don't do this to the child. You live in this country, you need to abide by the laws of the country. So educate yourself on the laws, understand the systems, try and understand the systems that you live under. It's difficult, it's complicated. Educate yourself, as Tanvir has been talking about, by checking out before you place your child with a school or a nursery, check all the information. I understand for some parents, Tanvir is an educated woman, so she can do that. Some parents are not able to do that. Some parents don't speak English. So use the people around you who do. Ask for help. The other thing is, in some ways it's a good quality, but in many ways, especially when it comes to child protection, it's not. Don't trust everybody. Where does abuse happen most? It happens within families. So don't leave your child with anyone. Always have, just be curious about that person. Don't believe that everyone loves your child the way that you do, that everyone has good intentions towards your child. Because in my experience, most children are abused by members of the family. They're not. It's a myth to say that they're. It's not a myth, but it's the children are not generally abused by strangers. They are abused by people that they know because it's easier to get to know a child. So that's the reason. Also, go to parenting classes. The parenting that we grew up with, especially if we've come from Bangladesh or any other countries, it's not always, you can't always apply it to this country. There are stresses, there are issues which are very, very different in this country. In this country, you as a parent are expected to care for your child. In Bangladesh, growing up, especially in the village, there's an African saying that it takes a village to raise a child. You can apply that in Bangladesh. Everybody knew everybody else. Everybody knew their business. People do keep an eye out for children. It's not the same here. So there's a lot of focus on the parent protecting the child. So try and go to parenting classes as well. Lots of schools run parenting classes. Some of those classes are in your own language, so try and find out about those. Speak to your child. Communicate with them from an early age. Don't shut them up because you think they don't understand or because, they're being disrespectful. Because if you don't speak to them from a young age, you can't expect them when they're 12, 13, 14 to suddenly tell you everything that they're doing, tell you about their friends, because they're not going to do that. They're going to keep it secret. They're going to keep it apart from you because you haven't opened up that chain of communication. When that happens, their friends become greater than their parents. And I've had so many parents say to me, in this country, family doesn't mean anything. The children's friends are greater. And that's one of the reasons, because you don't spend time developing a relationship with your child. You expect your child to obey you, but be a friend to your child.
Can I just quickly ask you a question, Nadira Paz there? So you talked about trust and you talk about, like you used Tanvir as an example, and I think Tanvir, obviously, she's a remarkable mother, and there's every ingredient of her getting it absolutely right, and she's doing all the right things. So Tanvir, well done, and congratulations from all of us, I think. But and you make an interesting point, Nadira Paz, that not every parent is educated and is able to understand that you can't just believe something on face value. You have to go beyond and over and above to ensure that what people are trying to sell you. So, for example, you want to send your child to a nursery or you want to give your child to a childminder. The childminder will not come and tell you, I'm going to abuse your child or I'm going to mistreat your child. Of course not. Of course not. So what is it? So a lot of the time I think our parents will think, well, they will go on trust. They will trust the person. I understand that our Bangladeshi families and subcontinental families have this great respect for authority. So this is somebody who has authority. This person can't be telling me a lie. They must be, telling me the truth, and they will look after my child. So especially if I relate it to tutors and, home tutors or even tuition centers we send our children to. We send our children to Islamic tuition centers, but also just general education tuition we send our children to. And there was another video that we were going to show today, and in that video, which we are not showing, but I'm just using an example from that video, is that a child goes to a private tutor, and the tutor abuses that trust. But also this week there was this other article that I read where a young woman talks about her ordeal. First, she was sexually abused within her family. Then she goes to a school teacher who's her counselor. And then this is in England. And then the teacher sexually abuses her from the age of 14 to 17. So how does a parent trust somebody? And what is it that they need to do to actually make sure that this person is going to protect their child? Can you give our parents some ideas around that?
Well, unfortunately, it's not 100% foolproof. You can have... Well, one of the things that they need to do is don't send your, for example, childminders. Don't leave your child with someone who's unregistered. The local authority has lists of childminders who have to go through, we call it DBS checks.
Police
so really
checks.
thorough checks before they can register as childminders. But that's one of the things. If you're sending a child to a tuition centre, every organisation in this country that works with a child, with children, has to have a child protection policy. They have to have training. They have to be, inspected as well. So go by those things. Don't just go by word of mouth. If you are going to have someone who comes into your house, sit in on the lesson. Don't leave your child in the lesson with the door shut. Just trust in that person. Sit in on the lesson if you have to use someone who's not registered. All mosques, madrasas, they are all meant to have child protection policies, child protection training. Any organisation that's got charitable status has to have these kind of... So these are the things that you can look out for. Okay. They're not 100%, as I said, foolproof, but, you also have to be curious.
So I'm just going to ask Tanvir now. Sorry, Nadirappa, to cut you there. Tanvir, you're looking at all these different resources to find the right resource for your daughter to leave her. What will satisfy you and make you feel that your child that this place is going to be the right place for you to leave your child?
So that's why when the viewing meetings that I've had done, it's you can get a feeling of the carers coming up to you and Camila, and you can tell if she feels comfortable where she'll go to them or she'll start smiling. If she cries automatically, then okay, she can sense something here, maybe not a good idea. You just get an instinct as a parent, don't you?
And at the same time, so you're not just 100% relying on your instincts, but you're also reading Ofsted reports, doing your own research, and you just mentioned that you're meeting them. Is that right?
Yes, I have been meeting them, yes.
Okay, that's really helpful, because a lot of parents probably don't know that they can arrange these appointments and go and have the preview and ask. Are you allowed to ask questions about things there?
Yes, so I went to so I've been going to the open days that they have, which basically the open days is generic. There's loads of parents, it's existing parents as well as new parents. So it gives you a chance to talk to the existing parents and get their feel on how their children are coping, looking at all the display boards, activities. But then you can arrange to have a one-on-one meeting, engage with the carers one-on-one and have a look at what the children are doing live, basically. You can go from classroom to classroom. It'll also give you an opportunity to ask them questions. We had loads of questions piled up, and it's fine. They're welcoming questions because you will have questions. So yeah.
Well, sounds like you're doing all the right things, because a lot of the time parents probably feel that they're not able to ask questions. Maybe they feel either embarrassed or perhaps even intimidated if the language barriers are there as well. So I'm going to quickly go back to the conversation I was just having with Nadirappa, but bring Shama in. Shama, you obviously, between the two of you, you have like 60 odd years of experience probably of doing this work, and you are both very much experts in your field. You work with the law, you've seen how law works, how it's applicable to people, how it works, how it stresses families, how it breaks families. You've talked about those things, and you've seen separation, you've seen the bereavement that children go through, you've seen the impact of loss and separation. How do families cope with all the losses and the separations and the anxieties, and how does faith help in all of this?
Is your question addressed to me or to
Yes,
Nader?
Shama, to you.
Okay, thank you. What I'd like to do is just first of all add on to what Nadra said about measures that can be taken to keep families safe. And where I think faith comes in, I just want to link the two. So to keep children safe requires parents to feel safe. So my program, the reason I left such an incredible job, alhamdulillah, everything that I did with it was served me at the time. But one of the primary reasons I left was my concern, my focus was with the parents, so that they didn't have to appear before the court, so they didn't have to face their children being removed. So in order to keep your children safe, I think there's a huge responsibility for parents to actually address whatever historical trauma they have within themselves. So to look at personal development, to try to look at removing some of the emotional debris that lurks within themselves, within their heart. Now, faith comes into that because we know from the Quran that repeatedly we're told the only thing that we're going to take with us on the day of Qiyamah is going to be a sound heart, a clean, pure, healthy heart. That's what a sound heart is, a penitent heart, a pure heart, a healthy heart. And to have a healthy heart, that means that we don't have any debris lurking there. And debris, I would define as including anything that has grief and trauma and hate and anger lurking around within it. So my program, what I've been working on, alhamdulillah, for the last few years, is how do you remove that emotional debris, the toxins, and how you prevent those from lashing out onto the next generation.
What is this program called, Shama?
So it's the program is called the Emotional Detox Program. And what I've devised, especially during the period of Corona, is coping with Corona. And so it's basically a stress management program that looks at all aspects of life, including personal development, and it looks at how we can manage things like grief, loss, forgiveness, serenity, grace, holding on, letting go. What do we need to let go of? What do we need to hold on? How do you move on? So if you are not in that headspace and in that heart space, which is aligned, how are you going to parent your children? How do you keep them safe? Because what Nadra will no doubt confirm, and you from your own background, Hina, is that you are going to then be left unable to form the proper attachments that Nadra has also already alluded to. You may even be dissociating because of the historical trauma that you've lived with, and you may possibly be unable to feel and give love because you're locked in that space. So the work that I've done, because alhamdulillah, after years and years of experience, training, all sorts of things that have led me here, my own spiritual journey, umrahs, hajj, ibadah, everything that's led me to this point is to work on how you get rid of that trauma, how you get rid of whatever it is that lurks within the heart. And I've worked with clients that have suffered horrific types of abuse. Everything that I've dealt with in the courts, the mothers and fathers, not just women, because we ignore the men, we ignore the mental health concerns of the men who carry the trauma of whether they've been violently, horrifically, physically abused or even sexually abused. What
And I
we've
guess,
done is
Shama,
that-
Shama, I guess we don't talk enough about the male victims of abuse and domestic abuse. Generally, we focus on the women, but it's really important that you've highlighted this. And I just want to say that we are right at the end of our program. We've only got a couple of minutes. So I would like to say to my audience, if there's anyone out there who really wants to speak to either of my guests, you can leave your telephone number at the studio, and we can pass on your number to either Nadira or to Shama for them to contact you, because obviously what Shama is talking about is much deep-rooted, and it needs a program on its own to actually look at what it is about forgiving and forgetting and moving on and addressing trauma. Trauma is a huge, it's a huge subject on its own, and trauma-based practice is something that's really social workers are learning about now. So Shama, very quickly, how would you summarize your advice for my audience tonight?
I would say that if you want to prevent cycles of abuse repeating themselves, address the problems within yourself. And the whole concept of reparenting the parents requires you to address the inner child. And that's in effect what I'm trying to do with people.
Thank you so much, Shama, for joining us tonight and giving the advice. And I hope to have you on the program at some other time as well. Nadirapa, how would you summarize for my audience tonight?
I would say educate yourself. Learn about the systems. Learn about how things work. Learn about people's roles. And start addressing your parenting. Access services. If you're feeling unhappy, if you're feeling sad, go and speak to your GP. It's better for you to deal with the problem at the beginning rather than when it escalates and you end up hurting your child. Deal with it at the beginning. So learn to recognize problems. And the way you learn to recognize problems is if you go to these programs, if you talk to people. If you're feeling unhappy, go and see your GP. That's the starting point.
Thank you so much, Nadirapa, as well, for sharing the advice. And if any of the viewers wish to call and leave their number, I'm sure either of you will want to assist, because you have assisted a great deal tonight by coming to the program. And I hope, inshallah, we'll be able to bring you back on to talk more about child protection issues and how our families are impacted and what our families can do to prevent these sort of situations escalating. So last but not least, Tanveer, what would be your advice to our young parents who are watching tonight?
We're living in a global pandemic at the moment. And just to say that, you're not alone in this crisis. It's okay not to be okay. Speak, reach out to your family and friends for help. No one said it's easy. It's a difficult set of challenges we're living at the moment, we're facing. I'll happily pick up the phone if any new parents, want to speak to me. But you're not alone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for offering to speak to new parents to Tanveer, and thank you so much for coming on to the program. I would like to thank all my three guests for their invaluable contribution tonight. প্রিয় দর্শক শ্রোতা, আপনারা যেটা দেখলেন, আজকে মহিলা অঙ্গন অনুষ্ঠান কথা বললো চাইল্ড প্রোটেকশন নিয়ে, আর এই প্যান্ডেমিকের মধ্যে আমাদের স্ট্রেস আমরা কিভাবে ম্যানেজ করতে পারি। আশা করি আপনারা এই প্রোগ্রাম থেকে একটু যদি উপকৃত হয়ে থাকেন, সেটাই আমার সফলতা। আপনারা ভালো থাকেন, সুস্থ থাকেন, আর আগামীতে আপনাদের সাথে আবারও দেখা হবে অন্য কোনো প্রসঙ্গ নিয়ে। আজকের প্রসঙ্গ থেকে যদি কোনো কিছু আপনাদের ফলো আপ করতে হয়, অবশ্যই স্টুডিওতে টেলিফোন করে আপনাদের নাম্বার রাখতে পারেন, আমরা আপনাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করব এই ব্যাপারে যদি কিছু জানার আপনাদের থাকে। ভালো থাকেন, সুস্থ থাকেন। আসসালামু আলাইকুম।